Hi everyone, it's Stephanie here and welcome back. In today's video, we are going to be creating a card using products that are in the new January card kit. The new card kit is called Yay for You and it features two different die sets. So we have the celebratory confetti as well as the so many yays. And then there's also a stamp set called Yay for You. So the fun thing about the confetti die set is that there is a bunch of different shapes and there is both cut shapes as well as stitch line shapes. So you can cut out the actual shape or you can just add the stitching detail to your card. But what's really cool about it is the stitching detail is sized slightly larger than the cut shape. So if you wanted to cut out the shape and then add the stitch detail around the outside of the shape, you can do that by die cutting both of the shapes separately. So for my card, I want to die cut the word yay from the center area of the card for the main sentiment. And then I also want to have a bunch of these little confetti shapes die cut as well, because I want to create a shaker card and have various windows in the card that you're going to be able to see the little beads that I'm going to add into the shaker part. So I'm just using my die snippers here and I'm cutting apart the dies that I want to use. So I'm cutting both the cut shape as well as the stitching shape because I want to add stitching around some of the shape. So I'm not going to do it on all of them. I'm just going to kind of pick and choose different ones that I want to have the stitch detail. And then I'm also going to have some that are just the actual shape. So I positioned the large yay word on the center area of my panel, and now I'm just arranging the little confetti pieces into a pattern that I like. And then I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. Now with the yay, you just want to make sure that that's straight, but with the shapes, you can kind of let them die cut however, since they kind of have that fun look of confetti. So I kind of want them to be kind of scattered and not straight when I die cut them. So what I'm going to do is now that I have those shapes die cut, you can see I have all of these little openings with the fun shapes. So I have a rectangle, a triangle, a circle, and a square. And for a couple of these, I want to add the stitch detail around the outside edge. So to do that, all you need to do is take the stitch die that is slightly larger and position it right around that opening. And I like to use a little bit of repositionable tape, which will help to hold this in place. And then I'm just going to run this through my die cutting machine once again. And I didn't want to waste the time of die cutting and not actually be die cutting, so I added a few more of the shapes that I want to create windows with, and I'm die cutting everything together. So now I have more windows die cut into the panel, but I also have that stitch design around the two shapes that I added the stitching detail to. So it's just a really fun option. It just allows you to kind of mix and match how you have them. So I went ahead and did a bunch of these. I cut a bunch of window openings and I also added stitching to various shapes until I was happy with the design and had enough on that panel. So now I want to add a bunch of color to the panel. I really want this to kind of have a pop of color. I want it to kind of look like it's splattered with paint or ink, which it actually is going to be because we're going to add a bunch of distress ink. So I wanted to add a little bit of light blue to the panel first just to kind of tone it down a bit. I didn't want it to be completely white. So I'm taking a little bit of Tumble Glass Distress ink and I'm starting at the very bottom of the panel. And I'm just kind of adding that ink and working it towards the center of the panel. I'm not going to go all the way to the top. I decided just to have this concentrated at the bottom. And then I'm going to take some various colors of Distress ink and add some additional color to the panel. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I've taken a bunch of different colors here. So I have a nice range of rainbow color. And I'm going to add the color to an acrylic block. So I'm just taking the ink pad directly to the acrylic block. And then I'm going to spritz a tiny bit of water on there so that I can kind of get it a little bit thinner. I want it to be able to splatter really nicely. So by adding the water, it really helps that ink to move off of the acrylic block. And then to add the splatter detail, I want it to be pretty tiny. I don't want to have really big blobs of color. So I'm just taking a paintbrush and I'm just flicking the color off of the side of the acrylic block. And that makes that color kind of splatter all over the card. Now you can see with the yellow, you didn't really see it too much, but when I did the orange here, you can really see how much splatter I was able to get onto that card front. I really love the look of the inconsistent splatters. I just really had this idea in my head that this would be really fun with the shaker part underneath, and I thought it went really nicely with the confetti design that we're creating. So I did all of the different colors, and then I'm going to set that aside and work on the sentiment that we're going to add over the main word yay that we die cut. Now I originally die cut and stamped this onto a white sentiment banner, but I decided it was too much white. I wanted to add another pop of color to the card. So I ended up doing it a second time onto a piece of pink cardstock and I heat embossed that with white embossing powder. And I much prefer this, so I kind of left both on screen so you can kind of see the two options. So if you prefer, you can use the white with the black stamping for the sentiment, or you can use the colored paper and have the white heat embossed sentiment. To create the window on the front panel so that we can turn this into a shaker, I'm just taking a piece of acetate and I'm trimming it down so it's slightly smaller than the card front. And then I'm going to use a bunch of Be Creative tape here, or score tape, and I'm going to add this all over the background of this panel. And this is how I'm going to adhere the acetate piece. I really like using this type of adhesive anytime I do a shaker card, just because I know it's really strong and it's going to kind of keep everything in place. So I adhered the acetate onto the panel, and now I'm going to add the center area of the A back in, since we have that acetate to adhere it to. Now I realized I hadn't had any ink added to the interior part of the A, so I did add a little bit of blue distressing just to kind of get it to match with the rest of the card design. And then I just adhered that onto the center there with some liquid glue. Now I've added all my foam adhesive to the back of this because it does take a few minutes to add it all in, especially if you do it how I did it here. So what I did is I added the foam adhesive around the 2 confetti areas as well as the word yay, and I kind of closed them off so they were their own separate areas. And the reason I did this is that when the card stands, I want the little seed beads to be in all of the areas and not to fall to the very bottom of the card, which would happen if you created just one big opening. So I took the time to add all of the foam adhesive and then filled all of those areas with different colors of seed beads. I used all of the same colors that we used on the ink splatter. And then I added a panel of white cardstock to the back to seal everything in. And now you can see I have all of these fun rainbow colored seed beads in all of the different areas, and I don't lose all of the beads into the bottom of the card because we did create those separate windows. And even though we have all of these colored beads and we have all of the splatter on the front, we did keep a lot of white space as well, so I feel like it didn't overwhelm the card, but it just made it look really fun and festive. To finish it off, I added the panel to a top folding 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base, which is the same pink cardstock that I used for the sentiment banner. And then I added the sentiment banner right over the word yay with some foam adhesive. So that is going to complete our shaker card. So we have this really fun large sentiment in the center with a secondary sentiment banner on top. And we have all of those little confetti windows with the seed beads underneath. So I really hope you enjoyed today's card. It was a lot of fun to create. I look forward to seeing what you guys create with the January kit, and I will see you in another video soon. Thanks for watching.